Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I have to react to something. The fact that the budget for Avengers Doomsday is so astronomically high. I'm very concerned about this. You should be too, because it means that the film itself has to make over $1 billion to even break even. If all of this and all of this information, which we're going to treat as rumor for our purposes here, is true, Doomsday and every other Avengers slash Marvel film coming out, except for maybe Brand New Day, is in big trouble. Here we go. Now, before we get started, just a real quick reminder. I'm trying to get to 50K. I'm getting close, but for whatever reason, YouTube has cut me off. Well, I need your help. Please double check you're still subscribed to the channel. Please hit the thumbs up button right now. Please hit the bell icon and turn on all notifications. And then make sure you comment at least once or twice throughout the video, or maybe even at the end. All of that will do immense good for this video. And if you don't mind, share it around, because if you share the dream or the video, you share the stream or the video, and that's just amazing stuff. Anyway, we'll move forward. No more rhyming. We've got Avengers Doomsday budget rumors hit $700 million in total spend. Wow. Can Marvel afford another massive gamble? My quick answer is no. What do you think? You think this we could afford this? You think this is a good plan? You think this is a good idea? I don't. I think that this is going to be perhaps one of the biggest film disasters we've seen since Ishtar. Go look that up. It's ridiculous. But from the story itself, Disney's reported Avengers Doomsday budget is already causing massive discussion across Hollywood, and not in a good way. According to comments made by John Campea, the next major Marvel team-up film could carry a staggering price tag that may put unprecedented pressure on Marvel Studios and its parent company, the Walt Disney Company, to deliver a historic box office performance. Is Disney capable of historic performance? I don't think so. Now, Campea did a video about this. You can certainly go watch it, talking about Wonka 2 and Project Hail Mary breaking $500 million, et cetera, et cetera. But what I think is most relevant here is the following set of information and quotes. Campea stated the word is that Doomsday's budget is around $400 million, which makes it most, if not the most expensive film ever made. I've heard a little birdie told me their marketing budget for Doomsday is a little north of $300 million. Doomsday will be the first film in history that will need to join the $1 billion club in order to break even. Well, I think some context is missing there, because I think it's more substantial than that. I think this thing needs to hit 1.4 billion. That's right. And I'm saying that very specifically. And Disney will have to leave the film in theaters for as long as they possibly can in the chase of dollars. Kind of like what they're doing with Hoppers right now and similar films, just to try to get the numbers closer to break even. It's embarrassing for Disney to have these films not perform as well as something like, let's say, Project Hail Mary or, well, even Super Mario Galaxy. So if something like this is going to be this big a budget, it had better be successful. Of course, if this holds true, which I think it does, the implications are enormous. A $700 million bet before opening weekend is a big one. At $400 million in production budget paired with $300 million in marketing, which is about right, to be fair, that would bring a total investment to $700 million, as we mentioned before, and it says on the thumbnail. That's not just expensive, it's historic. For comparison, Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War were already considered massive financial undertakings. Yet those films arrived at the peak of Marvel's cultural dominance back in the 2017 through 2019 range. And yet they were backed by a decade of momentum and widespread audience goodwill, which I'm sure you will agree does not exist now. In fact, I think people are very concerned about any of the Disney products that are coming out now. They are at their most vulnerable point where if they don't have massive tent poles like this one be successful, they're in big trouble. And it's one of the reasons why not only is it rumored that the dates are moving for Doomsday, it's all but confirmed at this point. And for this one, context does matter. So let's get into the bigger problem, which is the $1 billion problem. Now, traditionally, studios aim to double a film's production budget at the global box office to turn a profit, accounting for marketing costs, theater splits, and additional expenses. If Avengers Doomsday is truly sitting at 700 million all in, that means turning a meaningful profit would demand 1.3 to 1.5 billion or more. Wait a minute. I already said that. I think 1.4 billion is a reasonable guess in the middle ground there for what this thing is going to have to do. And you know what? That doesn't surprise me. We've been seeing expensive budgets for Hollywood tentpoles for a long time. And there's only a handful of films that have reached that threshold throughout history. Most of them were the cultural events that we all recollect, including, unfortunately, the very hollow but pretty Avatar movies. So let's get back to the story. The big problem here is there's no hype. In fact, where's the hype? That's the biggest concern, and that's the biggest one that I can think of. Unlike leading up to Infinity War and Endgame, the current level of excitement surrounding Avengers Doomsday appears muted. That's an awfully kind word. I'm not sure I would have not used something a little bit more descriptive and accurate. Muted makes it seem like, well, there have been some good films lately, but, there have been some bad ones. Whereas we had two phases of complete disappointments, again, with the exception of Spider-Man and Deadpool and Wolverine, which I think we can agree had very little to do with Disney or Marvel in the first place, trading on the former X-Men franchise from Fox. Let's get back to it. Those earlier films benefited from a clearly defined overarching story, fan favorite characters reaching emotional conclusions, and a sense that audiences were witnessing something historic, which we were. Right now, Marvel's cinematic universe feels far more fragmented, and audiences have clearly noticed. In the years since Endgame, the studio has shifted focus towards a new generation of heroes that failed in the comics books and really didn't build an audience. In fact, if anything, this allowed for people who were unqualified to get into a business that normally took a great deal of writing prestige. Yes, I know the funny books didn't seem like a big deal, but they did require somebody who was familiar with how to craft quality storytelling. That's gone, and it's been gone for a while. And since they've sidelined the characters that built the brand in favor of newer, less established, and more diverse replacements, well, that transition hasn't landed the way Marvel likely hoped, which, again, you can't force something like this. It always fails. And that trend raises serious concern, as many believe that major Avengers title is no longer automatically guaranteed to be a must-see event, which I can guarantee the entrance into the marketplace will also be muted. This is not a cultural driver. It's in major competition throughout December with bigger players. Believe it or not, Dune 3 is anticipated to beat the pants off of this movie, and it already has possession of the IMAX screens for what would have been the original release date. They also managed to control all the PLFs for the most part, with very few exceptions, and they also have a cultural whirlwind of support behind them, despite the fact that Denis Villeneuve actually ruined the Dune franchise as he deviated in the third act so far from the original novel. But again, let's continue. There's no ignoring it. The MCU isn't box office machine it once was. While certain legacy characters and crossover events can still generate strong numbers, recent entries have shown wider gaps between critical and audience reception, as well the shills only have to shill in order to maintain access. Fans can walk away at any time because they're the ones with the money in their pocket making decisions about what to support. And so they've had faster drop-offs after opening weekends and far less urgency for repeat viewings because they've been, well, less than visually interesting and lacking in character development, quality characters, and quality storytelling. Boy, has Disney been in trouble lately. Several recent entries have struggled to generate the kind of enthusiasm that once defined the MCU, and several high-profile box office flops like The Marvels, Captain America Brave New World, Eternals, and many others, well, they just didn't pass the fan test, nor would anything like that have. So this is where we are. at the high risk, high stakes mark for Disney. They've been doing this for too long to have something massive like this fail. This would be another John Carter of Mars situation. This would be another Lone Ranger. And they're at a time in their history where they can't afford to do that. But what do I expect from this film? I expect about 1 to 1.5 billion in total film run. In fact, some people have said there's no way it makes it to a billion. And while I'm not going to predict that, I'm going to certainly say that it seems like that could be a possibility. But those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know what you think about Avengers Doomsday and what its performance will look like. Let me know what you think about a $700 million all-in, which includes a $400 million budget and $300 million marketing campaign. And let me know if you are inclined to believe those numbers, since we're knee-deep in CinemaCon, where all of these people are interacting with each other and getting the straight information from not just the creators, but the marketing teams, which are being slashed at this point in time for, well, a lot of various reasons. We'll revisit the Disney stories about layoffs in the future. But is there a chance that this could break through to profitability, or is it already DOA? Let me know your thoughts and any other thoughts that you have down in the comments section below. And as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya. Just maybe not at this movie more than once, because I'll see it so you don't have to.